some people go through. And like you said, it is a disease, and we have a tendency to look at like mental health in one category and substance abuse in another category, but it's really all the same because we're all talking about certain type of diseases that people are predisposed to. Some people are predisposed to stress and anxiety, so they just can't handle it. And the first thing they want to do is they want to off themselves. Why? Because they don't have those coping mechanisms. So.
It's the Empowerment Perspective Podcast, hosted by Demiso Josie and Mr. Kareem Spence. Stay empowered. Stay empowered.
All right, welcome to yet another episode of the Empowerment Perspective Podcast. I go by the name of Dr. Demiso A. Josie, alongside
Spence is here.
And
Amy.
How we holding up? We still good? Quarantine ain't get to our heads yet?
Man, yeah, it is. I had to put a regular shirt on today, man. I got tired of wearing a sweatshirt. I had to put a real shirt on today, man. I feel like a grown man.
I gotta feel normal for a second.
Yeah, I feel like a grown man and not like a little kid wearing sweatpants every day.
I got you. I got the same clothes on. Hey, you know, put the hoodie on and the sweatpants and stuff. Jamie, how you holding up? You all right?
I actually do have on sweatpants today because I've given up.
Yeah. You going backwards.
I'm going backwards. I don't care anymore.
I get it. So our last podcast we had, we talked about First and Forever. We had the couple on out in California that's starting to do their podcast, Jason and Nikki out there, giving some relationship tips in quarantine, and the conversation kind of went left. So a lot of you probably want to see that particular episode. It's mainly for adults. So anybody that's young, you probably not going to get a chance to see that particular podcast or hear it, but we will release it. But big shout out to them. Kareem, how do you think that particular podcast went? It seemed like you was taking stuff personal a little bit, though.
Well, I was, and I needed some relationship tips because, you know, I struggle in that area of my life. They were fun, but I'm still not too sure on whether or not I'm supposed to give up my phone password. I'm still stuck on that. I'm also stuck on, you know, the little sip of orange juice, if I can put it back in, but I have to write on the calendar, you know, that we need to have more orange juice. So that was good for me. I think it was good.
You definitely coming from a different space, you know what I mean, being a bachelor and all. So I get it. Jamie, how'd you like that podcast?
Well, I think they're an absolute power couple. I think that anyone single should listen to what they're saying if they want to be in a power situation one day, because you could see the strength between them.
I got you. Kareem, you disagreeing. We're going to say that for another podcast. I know you two can go at it all day long. So we'll save that for another time. So,
yeah, that's because that's why.
She's petty.
Well, truthful and petty kind of mean the same thing sometimes.
I got you. So this season 4, we've been trying to bring you obviously some helpful information that has nothing to do with the coronavirus. Obviously, we want to bring you inspirational stories. We want to bring you information that's going to help you on the back end of this thing as well. And through a mutual friend of ours, I was able to connect with this brother originally from Trenton, New Jersey. He's now in North Jersey. He's doing some big things in the basketball world, and he has a personal story about overcoming obstacles and everything as well. And I think that our audience, we did a show previously about this topic, but to bring on some more examples on how to overcome obstacles is a huge thing here with the Empowerment Perspective Group. So I'd like to welcome Mike to the show. How you doing, brother?
How you guys doing out there?
We're doing good. We're doing good. So the way we contacted or connected, mutual friend of ours, he was like, "Yo, I got this friend that I went to school with that has a story about overcoming obstacles, specifically recovery. We thought it would be good for you to be on our podcast and to share your story, and also explain that you are heavy into basketball. So we want to dig into that too. So there's going to be a combination of two different things that we're going to have going on today. So I guess give us a little bit about your story. You don't have to go too deep and share whatever you want to share. And then real importantly,
I'm comfortable with telling my story. I do it all the time. It's something I do. I go out and talk to kids about it, talk to adults about it. I turned it into I I felt like God chose me to do this, and that's why I went through what I went through. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna take it back to going through college. College was the first time I ever took a drink, and I had never did alcohol or drugs up to that point. I had never like dealt with any of that stuff. When I went to St. Peter's, that was my first time away from home. St. Peter's College in Jersey City. I struggled with the cultural differences. Coming from an inner city all black high school, and then going up there and being around the different races. I struggled with the cultural differences. I struggled with academically. It was my first time away from home, and first time I really I didn't know how to study or nothing like that. So I struggled academically. I struggled culturally. So I came home, and I can remember my mom, like, what happened was I took a test and I got 29 out of 100. And I went to the professor and was like, is this real? And she was like, yeah. So I was hurt because I had never felt anything in my life. So I went home and I told my mom I didn't want to go back. And my mom was like, you got to go back. I mean, she said, you don't got to go back, but tomorrow you're going to get a job. And I knew then, if you know my mom, if I ain't go back to school, I'll still be hearing about that to this day. You know what I'm saying? So I jump right and go up to Jersey City. I get off at Journal Square. Walk down the street and I see a liquor store. Go in the liquor store. I saw a 2020 Mad Dog, banana strawberry. Never forget it. Took it out, bought it, snuck it into my dorm. And that was the first night I ever took a drink. And the alcohol had took me somewhere that I had never been before. I didn't have to think about what I was going through. I didn't have to think about none of that stuff. So throughout my freshman year, I used that as a crutch. Anytime I felt that I didn't want to deal with something, I drunk alcohol. Now at that point, I didn't realize that I had put some in my body that would eventually become a disease. So then I transferred to King. Now that's a party school, so I'm partying every day. Partying especially on the weekends, Thursday to Sunday, we partying. And I didn't know then that the alcohol was progressing. So, ran into some tough times at King. And once again, the help was there for me to go get help at the therapy and all that kind of stuff. But I chose to just go get my friend alcohol. You know what I'm saying? So not knowing that this thing is progressing. So once I graduate college, I moved to Marsville, Pennsylvania, like most people do in Trenton. And I met my first wife. We got together. Partying just turned really off the hook. I had 2 incomes then. So I was able to pop bottles in the club, whatever the rappers was drinking, I was able to drink. I'm thinking this is a part of life, not knowing that everything is progressing. I had my first encounter with death. I had moved down to Jersey Shore. We had moved down there. One of my friends had got us a job down there. He was a principal at a middle school. So we had came back to Trenton. I was living in Eatontown. We had came back to Trenton to go to the club. We go to the club in Trenton. On the way back home, he had a Land Rover. Back then, the Land Rovers were real tall. Range Rovers were, you know what I mean? So we drinking and smoking in the car. We both drunk. Neither one of us had seatbelts on. He riding down 195, and he almost ran into the back of this car. So in order for him not to hit the car, he turned the steering wheel. And once he did that, the car flipped. The truck flipped about 6 times. All I did was close my eyes and just pray. When I came to, he wasn't in the truck. When I opened my eyes, the truck was laying on the side, and the only way I was able to get out, because we had the sun, because it was still hot. It was around in the fall. We had the sunroof open, so the truck laying on the side, I was able to step out through the sunroof, and then I looked. I was screaming his name, and then he was about a half a mile down the road in the grass, and he was like, "Yo, I'm right here. Shut up." So I looked down the street and I saw him, and then I was like, "Yo," and that was God sending me a message, but I didn't take it. When you're in the midst of that lifestyle, I took it as I'm about to live every day till it's my last day because I almost died. So now the party increases more and more and more. And then September 14th, 2009, that's when my life changed forever. Me and my wife was separated. and we worked together at the school we taught at, but we were still close. Me and her was supposed to do a project that day. She ain't come to work. I called her on the phone on the way to work. She ain't answer. Trying to get her to get ready for the project. She ain't answer. So I'm figuring she in the shower or something. I get to work. They're like, yo, have you talked to Janelle? I said, no. I was like, she ain't answering when I called this morning. So they was like, all right, well, she ain't call in. I said, all right, I'm going to go to my homeroom. Call me while I'm at home and let me know what's going on. So they was like, all right, homeroom over. They called me like, yo, come down to the office. I go down to the office. They like, yo, she ain't call in. We worried about her. Do you mind going over there to check on her? And I said, yeah, no problem. But I said, I'm riding down there. If she call or come, because she lived like 20 minutes away from the school. I said, call me and I'll turn around and come back. So I get to her house. I see her car in the front. I feel a little relief. Then I go up to the door, knock on the door, no answer, yell out her name, no answer. I checked the knob. The knob was, so I went in, went to her door, went to her bed, yelling out her name, she don't answer. Then I walk in the bedroom and I found her dead on the floor in her bedroom. So now I jump into straight panic mode, call 911, come in. The 911 come in. They tell me I got to leave out the apartment. So they was like, be prepared, we're going to talk to you. You're going to have to answer the questions for the rest of the day. Now, me, I'm in shock. I don't know what's going on, what happened, anything. So they take me down to the first they took me to Neptune police station. Then I sat there for a little bit. Then they took me to Monmouth County Prosecutor Office. So I go sit in there. They come in. They talk to me for 2 hours. So I'm telling them everything that I know. We know, which is really nothing, just about our relationship and stuff. So I'm thinking I'm helping the situation. Everything is good. 2 days later, newspaper article drops. It says she was found. They didn't say who found her. But in the last paragraph, it said, because we were separated, then about to have a divorce. In the last paragraph, it said she was estranged from her husband. They worked at the same job, and their divorce was supposed to be finalized on October 6th. Now this is September 14th, and that's when I said, "Oh my God, I'm the #1 suspect in my wife's murder." So at that point, my life just went into a froze. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know anything. So I just was like stuck. And that was the first time and the only time in my life that I thought about suicide. Everything was dark. Wasn't really nowhere to turn. There wasn't nothing that I could do. So, but what got me through was I said that I know I didn't do nothing. I wanted to see it through. I knew my family already had went through mad pain, and I didn't want my family and friends to go through anything else. And lastly, but of course, the #1 reason was I believe in God, and I thought if I killed myself, I would go to hell. So my life has to transform into this thing. I can't go to work. They told me I can't come back to work. So what do? I'm in therapy and all that kind of stuff, but the therapist can't really help me because there's no conclusion to this situation. It's an open situation. So I turned to my friend. Now, I had to do this. Then it became normal because you got to understand this. It took 6 years for them to say somebody else did this. So I had to wake up every day wondering if today they're going to knock on my door and tell me that my life is over for something I had nothing to do with. So just to live in that fear every day and that torture, and then you feeling guilty because y'all wasn't together and it was just too much. So I turned to my friend, and then I had a guy that called me. I knew him. He was an attorney, and he was like, "Don't talk to nobody." His name was Ron Ventori. He was like, "Don't say nothing else to nobody. I'm a represent you because they're gonna try to pin you against. They're gonna try to pin this on you, and so I'm gonna represent you. Don't worry about it." So Ron represented me, but then 3 years later, around 2015, 2 years later, I get a phone call from Ron, and I'm like, "What's up, Ron?" He was like, "I got bad news." I'm like, "What's wrong?" I'm thinking I'm about to go to jail. He was like, "No, I got brain cancer." And I said, "What you mean you got brain cancer?" So Ron told me he has brain cancer. 6 months later, Ron dies. 2 days later, they was knocking on my door like, "We need to talk to you." And I'm like, I can't talk to y'all like blah, blah, blah. Like he told me not to talk to y'all. I'm not talking to y'all. So this is going on every day of my life. So during this time, the only way that I can maintain, because honestly, and this is no excuse, I really thought that if I was sober, that I would think too much and I would drive myself crazy, and then I'd be somebody that's walking down the street talking to themselves and losing their mind. So I didn't want to be in that space. So I just used to be drinking and drinking and drinking. Then it became normal and normal, but I still don't realize that I have a problem. So then 2000, after Ron dies, 2015, I get a call from this detective, and he gets on the case, Scott Sammons, and he tells me, yo, Mr. Melton, I know you ain't had nothing to do with this, but I need to talk to you again because they did their investigation wrong, so I need you to come in and give me a statement again. Now, Ron had already told me that if you try to talk to them, they're going to try to act like they're your friend, don't believe them, this and that. So it took me a year to sit down and talk. He was persistent, calling me, telling me to talk to him. So I finally sit down and talk to him, and he said, all right, this is what happened. He said, your wife was living next door to a drug dealer. The drug dealer had $18,000 in the freezer. The drug dealer told his girlfriend was at a party running her mouth. Somebody at the party heard her. This guy at the party heard her, told some stick-up boys. The stick-up boys went to the wrong house. That's how your wife got killed. So I was like, damn. So I was torn because I was still hurt that she died, especially dying for that. And then I was relieved that they knew that it wasn't me. So then I said, you know what? You might have been sipping too much. You know what? I'm gonna go to rehab and get some help. So I get on a plane. I fly down to Florida. I get to the rehab. Do my 5 days of detox. Go into the rehab, and I made a fatal mistake when I went in there. I did not identify with the people that was there. I thought I was better than them. And when I sat in the meetings and I heard the people talk, guys didn't have the money that I had. Guys were drinking way more than I was drinking. So I told myself when I got in there that I'm not an alcoholic because I don't drink this much. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't look like that. I'm not an alcoholic. So I put it in my head that I wasn't there for alcoholism. I was there for the therapy of what happened to my wife. So I didn't go to no meetings. I never opened a book. I never did none of that stuff. I goofed off. I laughed and I played around. I didn't take it serious at all. So the last day before I left, it was this counselor there, and he said, he was tapping on a chair. And I said, yo, Chris, like, why you keep doing that? And he said, because this is where you gonna be at, because you ain't do shit when you came here. And you gonna come back and you gonna be drinking twice as much as you was when you left, when you leave here. And I laughed at him and said, crazy, I ain't never coming back here. Because I really had it in my mind that all I needed was to clean up and I could be a social drinker. Since I never opened that book, I didn't know that I had a disease already. So I checked out. I was so arrogant with it. I had a cousin that lived in Fort Lauderdale where I was at rehab at. I was supposed to get out on Saturday morning. I convinced the people to let me out Friday night because I knew my cousin was gonna live there. My cousin pulls up. He like, yo, you ready? I'm like, bet. He like, what you want to do? I said, listen, man, I ain't been around females in all of these days. I want to go to the club. So I left rehab and went to a club. So that's what my mindset was at. I thought that I could be social because I never opened a book. So then I get back home. I'm still socially drinking. I'm thinking everything is cool. I already know what's going on with the cases, done, everything. Prosecutors called me back again. Said, Mr. Melton. I said, what's up? I thought everything was good. Said, we got to go to trial. And you got to testify because you're the one that found her. So now I'm scared all over again because I don't want to be the one to mess up and get up on the stand and say something wrong or do something wrong. And these three guys that get off that murder my wife. So now the anxiety lifts back up again. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm totally scared again. So guess what I do? I go back to my friend, Mr. Alcohol. Start drinking again. Now we get up close to the trial. And I cooled out because I knew I had to handle, this was some serious stuff I had to handle. So I cut it down, got up on the stand, did what I had to do. And this is how I know God intervened with this. On my birthday, the verdict came down. All three of the dudes guilty on all charges. On my birthday, they got found guilty. Now, I had it in my plan to celebrate for the next month. I was hitting all the islands. Because I had went through 10 years of this. But I knew God had other plans. 2 weeks later, my second wife, she had a birthday party set up for me down in Atlantic City. I go down to Atlantic City. I'm in the room, and I'm drinking, and I overdid it that day. And I was sitting next to, it was Tory. I'm sitting next to him, and he turned and was talking to me, and I looked at him and I couldn't recognize him. And the first time in my life that never happened to me before. Like I never sat next to somebody and didn't know who they was. And I was scared. So then I went in the room and laid down to go to sleep. And I promised myself that day that I wasn't gonna drink again. And then when I woke up, because I was in fear that would always happen from then on. But then when I woke up, I realized I couldn't stop. Now I was going to the liquor store around the clock. I'm going to different liquor stores in Trenton. I'm just buying bottles and doing this, and I couldn't stop. And there's no worse feeling than when you really want to stop and you can't. So then it got to the point to where I went in the basement, and then I said, I got on my knees and I prayed to God, and I said, yo, God, either help me or take me. I can't, there's nothing else I could do. And I never prayed that hard before in my whole life. And I asked God to either help me or take me. So then wheels started turning. I knew I had to go back to rehab. I flew all the way out to California to it was the Malibu. It was one of them places like Malibu. When I dared to look at the rehab was whack. So then I'm on the phone with my dad and them. They like, yo, I'm not going to this rehab. And they like, well, you just don't want to go this now. I said, guess what? Send me back to Florida and I'll go. I'll go back to Florida. But Florida used to be one of them lockdown rehabs. And I knew I still had my basketball business. I didn't think I could handle the lockdown rehab again. And this when God intervened again. We called down Florida. I'm on the phone with them, but we negotiating days. I'm like 30 days. They like 50 days. I'm like, well, 40 days. They like 45 days. And so we negotiating the days. And then I'm like, listen, I can't handle that lockdown stuff no more. I got a business to run. And they like, nah, Mr. Melton, it's not like that no more. You can have your laptop. You can have all of the stuff, everything. So I'm like, bet. So I head down to Florida. I go to the detox. And I walked in the rehab. And I opened the damn book. And I read the story. It was about this guy that he was 30 years old, and he said that anybody in AA definitely know what I'm talking about. He said that he was 30 years old. He said, I'm not going to drink again until I retire because I don't want drinking to mess up my. And he waited 25 years without touching a drink. Said he was 55 years old. He was sitting in his den with his slippers on, and he picked up a drink. And they said when he took that drink, within 4 months, he was hospitalized, and within 3 years, he died. And I said, oh my God, what the hell have I got myself into? And that brought some fear onto me that I had never felt before. Like, never felt that, like, if I don't do something, I'm gonna die. So then I just sprung into action and started going to meetings, sitting up in the front of clinical. I spent $650 on Uber when I was in Florida for that time because I was going to 3-4 meetings a day because I was scared for my life now because once I opened that book, I realized that I got a disease, and if I don't stop the disease, I'm gonna die. So I did that every day. I was going to meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings. And then one day I sat there and I said to myself, I asked God, why would you allow me first for my wife to get murdered, then for me to be the #1 suspect, and then go through all of this stuff knowing I didn't do it, and then allow me to become an alcoholic in the process. And then I got my answer on the last day of rehab. They have you got to talk to the people before you leave. Like the whole group, the counselors, the whole rehab. You got to talk to them like a speech type thing. And then when I told my story, the whole place was like mesmerized. And then I knew that none of this stuff was about me. God allowed me to go through all of this stuff so I could tell my story and my testimony and help save people's lives. And then I thought back to my basketball company and all the people I knew and all the kids I knew. And he had created that platform for me before I even went through all of this. So that's when I knew what my calling was now. But when I came home, I watched that Chris Herring video about when he was going around talking to the different schools about drug abuse. And I said, this is what I'm supposed to do. I started calling up AAU teams, high schools, and all of that stuff, going around telling my story to the kids. Because I knew that that's what I was really put here for. And that's how I came all the way around. But and I always say, who would have ever thought that one of the greatest feelings in the world to me would be telling a kid that I was an alcoholic. But it's nothing that I can explain when you're doing it and you know you're helping people, it's no better feeling than that.
Got you. I want to go back to the beginning of your story when you were saying that basically the high school that you went to didn't prepare you for college. We have a lot of educators that are on that's our audience, and you talked about not knowing how to study and not knowing how to basically do that life and fit in up there. Do you think that if you had the proper education and the proper training, that may have been the turning point for you early on? Or was that, in other words, was that an opportunity that was missed?
I think it was the high school portion. Of course, where I was from, the curriculum wasn't as it was in other places. So I could still get A's and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't really have to study like it took me to study once I went to that level. You know what I'm saying? But then once I got to the point to understand my disease, it was hereditary in my family already. So as soon as I started, it was gonna go. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So as soon as I started, it was gonna go. My mom later told me that my grandfather had died like 45 from from alcoholism. So once I started, I was gonna go.
Got you. And Kareem talked about basically the cycle and breaking the cycle of addiction, because it is hereditary and things of that nature. And I mean, I can obviously use my own situation as an example, but how do we break that cycle on something that is so, I guess part of your makeup? Kareem.
Yeah, let me say this. I think that we're all predisposed to certain type of conditions, and many in the African American community is mainly going to be either a drug or it's going to be alcohol. And then when you talk about the time period of the 60s, if you don't mind me asking, what year were you born? You were born in the 70s or 80s?
75.
75. Okay, so now you're talking about everything that his parents had to go through. You talk about in the 60s. Mm-hmm. All of that. So when you talk about the amount of stress and anxiety and worry that his parents had to go through while he was actually in the womb, so it's not easy. And even growing up like in Trenton is not easy. It's a lot of additional pressure that's put on students that's coming out of Trenton. And you would think that since it's the state capital, that everything in Trenton would be good, but it's a total opposite. Like when we were up there like 2 years ago, they said that they had a shootout at some type of 24-hour arts festival.
Without question.
Yeah, I'm like, that's unheard of. Like who in their I would say in their right mind would want to go shoot up an arts festival when people have the opportunity to gather and be able to be creative. But Trenton is just different. And before we even had like a gang problem, and like Trenton has always been that area that's really been trouble because it's so diverse. Like Trenton is a very diverse city. But going back to like what he had to go through, So not only what did he become psychologically dependent on it, he also became physically dependent on it, and that's a double whammy because we can address the psychological part, but that physical part and him going through detox, that is like no other because you're actually like taking a kid now to use as a baby. You're trying to take a baby off the bottle. And you see how long the baby always wants to go back. Whenever you try to give a baby a cup, a baby's like, no, I need that bottle. And that's similar to what some people go through. And like you said, it is a disease. And we have a tendency to look at like mental health in one category and substance abuse in another category. But it's really all the same because we're all talking about certain type of diseases that people are predisposed to. Some people are predisposed to stress and anxiety. So they just can't handle it. And the first thing they want to do is they want to off themselves. Why? Because they don't have those coping mechanisms. So while he was going through it, and I'm sure that he had people in his family that loved and trusted him at that particular time, he just could not hear anything that they were saying to him because he was stuck. And he said, the only way I know how to escape this pain was to go to the liquor store and get what I need. So for him, when things got rough, instead of him trying to say that, you know what, I'm going to hurt somebody, he decided that, you know what, I'm just going to take a drink because it helps me to escape. It helps me to get away from that particular stressor that's causing me to feel this way. And when he lost his wife, he didn't want to feel anything. And we've all been there before, including myself, where you just don't want to feel that because it hurts. It hurts so much. And when you have a sober mind, that's something that you're going to be compulsively thinking about over and over and over again. So for him, he said, you know what? I need to take my mind off it. And just like many other people, we find something else. For him, it was alcohol. Some other people, it may be work. Some other people, it may be the gym. But we all have different types of coping mechanisms to be able to have that sense of relief and escape. And that's what he needed.
Gotcha.
For me, I was that being able to break the cycle is really being able to have like really healthy communication. We talk about it all the time, but you need to have that one or two people in your life that you can actually have a conversation with and be real with. Be like, listen, this is what I'm going through. And from that, it will give the body and the mind a sense of relief.
Gotcha. Jamie, I want to bring you in the conversation a little bit. Do you think we're missing the boat from as far as the education standpoint on preparing students in their transition to college? And I mean, we're just using this as a discussion in terms of what could possibly happen when those needs aren't met. Do you think that we're missing the boat as educators early on? I mean, you're dealing with middle school kids.
I think that school is more than just coming in and doing academics all day long. I think that there's more there that students learn, like coping skills, like study skills. And I think that if you don't teach those skills early on, then something's going to come up where you're not going to be able to handle bigger situations when you're in tougher spots.
Right. Now, Kareem, remember, I want to say it was season 1, we talked to my brother. We went out to Michigan. And he said similar things. He didn't know how to fail. He didn't learn how to fail. Like high school was easy. He didn't have to study. And he transitioned into UPenn, and he was like, he got his first F. Like he didn't know how to study. He didn't know how to. And this, I mean, he was like number 7 in his class. So even at the top tier class, you still not getting these basic skills on how to study and how to manage your time and things of that nature. I don't know if you remember that particular podcast from me.
I do, and I think that. For us, we built a society where it's though that everyone is too big to fail. So when you're talking about those that are really athletic inclined, I can't allow my program to fall apart because I need you. So rather you're a really high talented athlete, rather you in the middle. If you sit the bench, I really don't care if you fail or not. You know what? I'll cut you in a second. But if you can ball, no, I need you because this program has to be successful because again, when people look at the school, they don't really grade the school based on how well we are doing actually in the classroom. We base the school how well we do athletically. And if your school is a really high athletic, successful type of school, then your school is the best. Never mind the fact that you have students that are coming out that probably can't read. Matter of fact, they probably don't know how to take the test. They don't have different like study skills, but again, when we're looking at schools and how we're grading schools based off athletics and not based off curriculum.
Interesting.
I think that more of the problem that I faced and a lot of kids faced was when I got there, they explained to us that it's normal for freshmen to go through adversity in terms of homesickness, academic struggles, and they had help for you to do that, counseling and all of that kind of stuff. But coming from the inner city, you're taught at a young age not to tell your business to nobody and not to do that. So the help, and that's what I explain to kids when I go talk to them about alcohol. Before you self-medicate, because that's what I was doing. I was self-medicating. Go get the help. And that's what where I think the plug needs to be plugged in at, is that our kids are out there, and even adults. I know a lot of adults that I know for a fact need help, but alcohol is so socially accepted, and it's a badge of honor in our community, in terms of every time you picture success, you picture somebody popping bottles, you picture somebody in the club with women around them. It's so much a part. The hardest thing for me to do, especially the first time when I went, picture fun without alcohol. I couldn't picture having a fun life without being able to drink, until I had to be brought all the way to my bottom. And that's why when people say, do you have to be brought to your bottom for you to get help? I had to be brought all the way to my bottom, where there's nowhere else I could go but to God, for me to understand that I could have a successful and fun life without picking up alcohol. And that's on the adult side. On the kid side, where the kids are not trained enough, because and I'm not tooting my own horn, it's not enough people like me that's not afraid to go back into their community and to admit that they had shortcomings. Like, once I got out of rehab, I still have my company, I still have everything going on. I could have just went on with my life, and nobody would have knew where I was at, nobody would have knew what happened, nobody would have knew nothing. But I had to make sense of the whole situation. If I didn't do what I'm doing, I would have been sitting in the house for the rest of my life wondering, why did God allow me to go through all of this? And then I would have eventually probably picked up a drink again, because I would have been feeling sorry for myself and doing all that stuff. I had to channel this energy into something that was going to help other people. And that's why I started hitting the schools and hitting the AAU teams and their practices and all of that, going to camps and telling the kids my story.
I think part of the key for young people is teaching them, what we need to do is teach them how to ask for help, right? I don't know, even from a basic fundamental in the classroom, they don't know an answer. They're not raising their hand. They need the help. They don't know how to ask for help. Part of it is a thing. You know, you don't want to admit that you're wrong, but I think we need to start changing the narrative for our young people and not being, having them not be afraid to ask for help. Even getting to a stage where you might even know the answer, but your friend next to you might not know the answer. You're asking for them. I mean, I think we need to get to a space where we need to get these young people early on the ability to ask for help, because when life hits you later, you're a little bit more easy to go ask for help and seek that information out, and your pride won't necessarily get into the way. It's definitely something I think we need to teach our young people for sure.
But also, Misha, I would think that as parents, that's something that you should ingrain in them early, is asking for help and not feeling as though that you have to take the entire world and put that on your back and carry it. Because a lot of times, if that's something that is brought up in the home, then it becomes a lot easier when they need to step outside the home in different environments to be able to ask for help. It's not a bad thing to not know stuff. It's a bad thing when you think that you know it all and you know so much that you don't need to ask anybody. So now what happens? You go to Home Depot and you walk around for 3 hours because you can't find a certain tool and you don't want to ask nobody.
Right. I think, even the family, we have to have different conversations when it comes to the family structure. Because like Mike said, our community is infamous on, you don't put your business out in the street type of thing. Sometimes you have to put it out in the street in order to get the help that you need. And
and part of that, let me chime back in, and part of that is because we came up in an era where though that we believe that social services are going to come into play, and now social services is going to intervene and start making decisions about your parenting skills. So
Mhm.
if by chance, you go to school and you're young, you say, you know what, we didn't have no food last night, I didn't eat. First thing an educator is going to do is going to pick up the phone, and they're probably going to call a division, and the division is going to come, and now the division is going to start making decisions based on what they see in the home. Based 30 minutes, I can already tell you what your lifestyle is like. But they may not even know that. Okay, I got laid off 2 weeks ago, or just maybe the food wasn't no good, so I couldn't feed my family. They have no idea what could be happening in your family, but they're making decisions, and this is why parents say, "Don't you go to school and tell them people nothing." But sometimes we need to know because we can actually help. But they like, don't you tell them nothing.
Right.
Exactly.
That is crazy. I do want to push gears a little bit because you mentioned your business. Explain a little bit about what you do. We're sports junkies here, and we had a little conversation off air a little bit about me coaching, and we got some connections there. So what do you do?
I do basketball spotlight. It's like the platform for middle school basketball players. We do tournaments, camps, showcases, and other type of events. And it was created in about 2004 to give middle school kids a platform for them to get attention. Now, it was when I used to work for this company called Metros, and we did high school and a little bit of middle school stuff. But nobody was actually concentrating strictly on middle school players and giving them their platform to get attention, to get noticed by high schools, to get noticed by colleges, to get noticed by now it took off, and it has created a following, and it created a movement for middle school basketball. Now the stuff that I do is duplicated all around the country in different places because of that. And we have some of the top kids in the country come through my tournaments and camps and stuff. Like most of the kids that's in the NBA from Boston down to Northern Virginia came through Basketball Spotlight at one time or another. So now other places are starting to catch on to like middle school basketball and stuff like that. But it was something that we started. I stepped out on a limb because it was something nobody was doing. And I had friends that laughed at me and was like, nobody's going to pay attention to no little kids. But me, with my business degree, I understood that the supply and demand part of it. You find your product that nobody's doing and that everybody is going to need, and they're going to continue to need it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always going to be kids that want to play basketball. There's always going to be parents that want their kids to get attention. So why not do that? And it just took off and turned into something that I do for a living.
True. And we talk about all the time in our last couple of podcasts, using this time of quarantine wisely. And so on the back end of it and looking for your lane and doing exactly what you basically said. Now it's time for you to really sit down and do your assessment and try to find those pockets of, on the back end, if you want to be a business owner, and try and find a lot of people are going to want to replicate. My advice right now, you go into the service industry right now, you be a barber, a hairstylist, makeup artist, and you get your stuff set right for the back end of this. Now is the time to start planning for that and looking for those pockets and using this time wisely to make your moves for it. Don't miss this opportunity. I mean, I think there's a reason why this happened, for us to slow down and to really think and assess our life and cut out some things that we don't need anymore and make life a little bit more simple. But there is opportunity for you on the back end of this thing to do it. Absolutely. Do you think, in terms of AAU basketball, and I wrestled with this, I've coached high school for a while too, and it's getting to the point, or before this coronavirus hit, but it's getting to the point where you don't actually have to play high school sports and some sports. You can do the AAU circuit, you can do those things, and colleges will notice it. Do you think that it'll eventually get to a point where your elite players, that you don't even have to play high school sports anymore, or do you think high school sports are still going to be an important part of the development of these athletes?
It's always going to come into play because right now they're really trying to phase AAU out. If this my gut feeling, if the sneaker companies weren't involved in the AAU part of it, see, the problem is now the NCAA really wants to get AAU portion out of it, but the NCAA got deals with the sneaker companies just like the The AAU teams got deals with the sneaker companies. So that's the only thing that's keeping the AAU part really in it. They because what happened is it has gotten out of control in terms of before, back in the day when we were young, the high school coach controlled most of the situation in terms of where kids were getting recruited, how they dealt with them, and things of that nature. And I don't know if you guys saw the scheme, the thing that came on HBO. The AAU people have taken over that portion of it, and now they got handlers and people that's with the kids that want this and want that and this and that. So it created a whole another animal. Now, I don't think they never let high school coaches get away with it, because also too, I had a lot of coaches on my interviews that I do with my live, and they talk more about looking at a kid's character in terms of letting the kid come to their college to play now. The days of the Allen Iversons and those kind of people being in the NBA, them days are gone. It was 3 kids, 2 kids, Louis King and Nazi Reed. Both of them went to the NBA this past year. They played in my tournaments in 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I had general managers calling me, asking me about what they was doing in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, their character and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they tracing you all the way back now. They not putting money into kids that had the kind of like Iverson and Marbury, and they not doing that no more. If they feel like you might be a risk, they cutting you straight out.
Yep. Kareem, remember we talked to Coach Poles in our previous podcast, and he basically explained that that's how we recruit at Rowan, is that we basically recruit character and the cultural.
Yeah.
And not that we can teach you how to shoot and dribble and all those things. You have to have some talent, obviously, but we have to be with you for 4 years at the very least. I mean, at that level, and I have to like you. You have to be a good person. You know what I'm saying? I have to like you. All that stuff comes into play. When I go recruit, I don't look at the basketball talent. I sit where the parents sit. I listen to their conversation. I look and see how you act when you come out the game. Those are the tangibles that I look at in terms of recruiting. So, every once in a while, you're going to have that gem that the kid is really, really talented, but how long you might be an Allen Iverson player, but if you were in trouble the first semester, you're not playing for me anyway.
And anyway, like this, put yourself in the head coach's shoes. You making, let's say, $500,000 to $1 million a year. You're not bringing no kid in there that's gonna get locked up. That's gonna get you fired. Like you, like yo.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to touch on Coach Pitino. I don't know how Coach Pitino went home and told his wife, "Listen, I just got fired and we lost $20 million." I don't know how you had that conversation with your wife.
he said he can hit that Jay-Z line. Another 20 mil ain't gonna hurt me. Unlike Hammer, 20 mil can't hurt me. He good.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Coach Pitino is a really good coach. I mean, he helped a lot of kids throughout his career. Now he can't even get a job. I think he's at
he got it.
He's at a small D1. Is he at a small D1 now? A really small D1?
Yeah, but they're gonna let it. See, this how I go. It's certain coaches they're gonna let come back. Okay. You know what I mean? Now let's say like Nolan Richardson. He makes one statement to the press. Now he got a coach in Cancun. You know what I'm saying? He can't never get a job in. But people like Pitino could do stuff and do this, and they keep giving them chances. You know what I'm saying? But that's the way that the game goes. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's just real. It's just a real ill situation when it comes to that kind of stuff. But that's the game that we in, man.
Absolutely. And going back to like AAU and like Coach said, it's coming to the point where as though that character is going to be one of the number one things. Actually, character is going to be seen more than talent. So when you're looking at a kid in the basketball court and he's flipping out, he's not listening to the coach, he's yelling at the officials and he's yelling at the players. Nobody wants that type of cancer in their locker room. And they really don't want it on the campus, because they know that, man, if you can't keep your composure at the basketball court, how you going to do it in the classroom? How you going to do it when no one is looking? Or when we go, and we have a game and we go across the country and we're in a national tournament and you just go out and do what, I don't know, what Alonzo Ball's brother did to go in the store and steal some sunglasses. Like that made no sense to me at all. Your brother's a millionaire.
Yeah, but
steal sunglasses. Right.
Also too, when I had UConn assistant coach on, he really emphasized that how they look at your social media, and not only you, your parents, what they posting, what they talking about, all of that stuff. Like, and I asked him straight up, did y'all ever really, is that rumor or fact that did you ever really take scholarship offers from kids upon seeing something? And he said 100%.
And that goes to also for employment. Now, that's the first thing when I'm hiring somebody. The first thing I do is hop on your social media. It's there. I'm gonna look at it. And I remember this one lady. This was a couple years ago. Her resume was stellar. Everything was 100%. I look on her Facebook and there's inappropriate pictures on there. I didn't even bring you in for an interview because it's about the climate. But I can teach you how to teach. That's the easy part. But I can't teach you how to fit in the culture and climate that I need. So that not only goes for athletes, that goes for any business, anyone that's looking for employment. One of the things you probably need to do right now if you're looking for employment is clean up your social media.
Indeed. I had this debate with people and friends a lot because I be on there a lot for my basketball company and stuff. And then I now, me as a human being in the natural eye, you see things that you want to engage in. You see things that you want to talk about. But once I created Basketball Spotlight, I lost that right. I can't do that. You get what I'm saying? Like, I can't talk about certain subjects. I can't comment on certain things. I can't make posts about certain things. I lost that right. Now, if I want to indulge in that, I better be willing to give up my right for Basketball Spotlight because I want to be like everybody else. You give up that right once you take that responsibility of having a situation where you're dealing with kids. I can't talk about certain sex and doing this. I can't talk about that kind of stuff.
You gotta understand that these companies, they have a brand. And when they hire you, you are part of that brand. You have to fit in with that brand. Even if you like the situation like yourself, even yourself employed, your company has a brand. Now you are branded. Exactly. So you have to maneuver a little bit different than everybody else. Crazy. So we're gonna transition over. Jamie, you've been quiet down there. Do you have your segment ready?
I do.
All right. We're transitioning over. Jamie's our 2-foot assassin. She's we're gonna do all things little. She's gonna talk about one thing that she hates that's little. If she sticks with the theme, she's gonna be talking about Kareem subliminally. So we're going to just see what happens here. So Jamie, what you got?
So we're gonna change gears completely. I recently moved, and in my old house, I had the nicest bathtub. It was huge. There were jets. I really hate small bathtubs because when I get in the tub, I can like stretch out. There's like room for me usually. And now there's not all that room that I need to be able to do what I want to do.
How much room do you need? You're 2 feet tall. Like, I don't understand it.
I like bubbles and like wine and like, I just need space. And there used to be so much space and I'm not really digging
the small tub
now.
I can see, I get it though, because I don't like it. My feet have to stick out and all this stuff, and then my legs cold. You need a big tub. I get all that, but you small.
I know. So I can I fit, but it's not like I like to be able to move around in there.
Like a swimming pool. She might be like Tony Montana sitting there watching television, watching the bubble bath, smoking a cigar. That's what she wants.
Fly, pelican, fly. That's wrong with you. So, Mike, I'm gonna ask you, what's one thing that you can't stand that's little?
I ain't nobody never asked me a question like that. One thing I can't stand that's little.
Don't try small-minded people because we've already talked about small-minded people.
What?
Yeah, that's true. I think once I went through what I went through, and then having been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, my patience is short. Like before, I would be able to handle a lot of things like without really responding to it or things on that. But once you go through like traumatic event and stuff like that, it's like my patience is short. So I don't really have the patience to deal with things like I do. Now I'm getting better at it with meditation and things of that nature. I'm getting better at it and being able, and especially not having my body consumed with like alcohol and stuff like that. That's helping me too. But my having short patience.
Now, the last segment that we have on the show is called Are You Petty? And our mutual friend said that you are extremely petty. So I have to ask you a question. He said, quote unquote, you probably are the most petty person that he knows. So are you petty?
Sometimes. Depends on not as much as I used to be. I definitely used to be petty. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to get the last word in. I had to, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm definitely gonna get you back. You know what I'm saying? Man, well, a story, me and him played on the same rec team in Trenton Monument. And man, my best friend was on the team together too. So they was the dudes, they was the big man, who was the guards. They used to be talking a lot of junk. So we just froze them out for like 2 games. Just man, I just passed the ball to him, he passed the ball to me, we shoot threes. Now you got three like 6'6" dudes, you know, Tory and stuff. You got 3 like 6'7" dudes down low, super mad. But I knew that I was the one that handled the ball and he was the shooter, so we just passed it to each other. And of course they was upset. But they gonna do, we the one, they couldn't dribble the ball up.
Yep, you got your Michael Jordan on, because I was watching that episode last night, and he was like, "Would you pass the ball to Kobe?" He was like, "I ain't passing the ball. I didn't pass the ball." That's petty. Kareem, you got anything?
Yeah, so I'm curious. All right, so you show up to the court and you got 5, right? And you actually bring the basketball. Now, if you lose first game, do you take your ball, go home if your 5 don't play well? You show up to the court, you got 5, you got the ball. Do you take your ball with you if you lose?
No, I never was really like that. I was too much of a basketball junkie. So I wanted to stay. I had to stay. Yeah.
So make sure, no, you got the ball, right? So now you're on the sideline while everybody else is running full court because your 5 lost. So you stay there and let everybody else play with your ball while you just stay on the sideline and wait.
Yeah, because I know I'm gonna get back on next. Now,
follow-up question is, who do you cut on your team? You showed up with 5. Who do you cut?
Whoever was costing us. They gotta go. It ain't personal. It ain't personal.
I got you with the ball thing though, especially if I got the best ball that's out there and my team lose. I'm gonna hold on. You ain't playing with my ball. I'm gonna sit on the sideline. Y'all get the dirty ball, and then when I play with my ball.
Because you know somebody always shows up, right, and they have that ball, and it looks like it's having a baby because like the leather came off, and it always messes up when you try to dribble. I may hold up my ball too. Now you go ahead and rock with that. I'm gonna hold up my ball.
That's too funny. Well, we're gonna wrap this podcast up real quick. Jamie, any last words before we get up out of here?
No, I just think if you have a problem, you know, the first thing that you need to do is accept that problem in order to move forward.
Indeed.
Kareem, any last words before we get out of here?
I just really think Coach for sharing his story, man. It was a really powerful story, and I think that you know, through the trials and tribulations of everybody's life, they really should be willing to share that experience because, you know, sometimes you go through stuff that's not so much as for you, but it's also for other people to learn from and be able to overcome. And again, Coach, just stay strong, you know, continue to do the meditation, you know, and, you know, continue to help out those young people, man, because they need you. We need you in the community so that, you know, we have more strong brothers like yourself that's willing to reteach our youth how to become stronger men.
Absolutely. Mike, any last words from you before we get out of here?
I want to thank you guys because this what helps me stay sober and helps me keep going, being able to tell my story and help other people. That's what keeps me going. So I need avenues, and you know, with stuff going on right now, we can't really get out to meetings and stuff like that. So we do the Zoom thing, but being able to go out and tell my story and help other people, that helps me stay sober.
Awesome.
So I just want to thank you guys for that.
Awesome. Anyway, people can get in contact with you, whether it be basketball or any speaking things once this thing
is they can hit me at B-Ball Spotlight, Hotmail, Basketball Spotlight at Hotmail for my email. We on Instagram. Our Instagram is popping, B-Ball Spotlight. Twitter, B-Ball Spotlight. And on Facebook, Mike Melton.
So I'm definitely going to put those links up for you. Just to close out, at the end of the day, if you are struggling or know somebody that's struggling with any kind of addiction or just need to learn how to ask for help, at the end of the day, do not be afraid to ask for help with whatever situation that you may be in. It could be positive, it could be negative, but we need to start teaching our young people how to ask for help, and you need to learn how to do it yourself. We need to have those discussions as families as well. Do not be afraid. I mean, you don't know everything, and there's people and there's resources out there. Information is powerful, but you need to go get it. So thanks again, Mike, for being on. Your story was definitely touching, and our audience definitely is going to get something out of it. And we wish you well and everything. To everybody that's out there right now, again, do your self-assessment, get your plan together. They're starting to open up some things here and there, but do not miss this opportunity of a lifetime on the back end of it. We can look at it as negative, but there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come your way if you're in position for it. So until next time, stay empowered.